Happy Columbus Day, folks, and welcome back to hashtag AskGSM, the weekly Monday mailbag video where we answer your questions from YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter right here in this video form. I've got good news for you guys today. Since I do not have class today being Columbus Day, I have no restrictions in how long today's video can be. Usually I'm restricted to about 20, 30, 40 minutes before I have to go to class. But since I have no class today, very good news, so I don't have to rush to the questions. I can go in depth this week, and no better time to do so since there's a lot of great questions. So we can go 30, 40, 50 minutes, maybe even up to an hour like we did over the summer. You probably already know if you're watching this video on YouTube. As I film this, I have no idea how long I'm going to go, but I look forward to answering your questions in depth this week. We're going to kick it off with Justin G's question from Facebook. He sent in 5 over the weekend, all of them being great. Kicking it off with his first one. Do you think that the WWE misused Derek Bateman, aka Ethan Carter III? This is a very popular question. I've seen a lot of people ask for the last couple of months. Did WWE miss the ball? Did they drop the ball? Miss the boat, I should say, with Ethan Carter III when he was under contract at the WWE? I personally don't think so. I don't think he could have ever been above a certain level in WWE. He deserved better than what he had. He was a comedy character for the most part in NXT. He was eliminated from the 3rd or 4th season from NXT. He was brought back to do that whole redemption bullshit. Turned heel, did the love angle with Maxine and Caitlyn. I mean, like I said, he's a funny guy, and you can see that shine through in his promos on TNA. But he's capable of so much more than that. He's got a very good physique. He's very good in the ring. He's got a brutal finisher, that front face lock front finisher that Dean Ambrose currently uses. EC3 started using that first to kind of clear that up for anyone that wasn't aware of that. But I do think in TNA he can be a world champion. He fits TNA to perfection because they've done a lot by him in the last year or so. TNA, for all their wrongs and all the bullshit that they've done in the last year and over the course of the history of their company, they've done right by this guy by building him up correctly. I mean, as I film this, we're 24 hours removed from their biggest show of the year, Bound for Glory. Certainly didn't feel like it, but he's still undefeated. It was at Bound for Glory last year that he debuted and won his first singles match. And ever since then, he's been undefeated in singles competition. So TNA has done a very good job by building him up with wins over Sting, Bully Ray, Eric Young, Kurt Angle, all these former World Heavyweight Champions and TNA Hall of Famers. So they've done a very good job of building this guy up, and I do think he's World Championship material before long. How long he will before he wins that World Championship? Someone joked with me last night on Twitter that if TNA is still around by 2015, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I mean, no offense or anything like that, but it is pretty funny for someone to make that joke. But I do think that he can be a world champion in TNA. In WWE, yes, to answer your question, Justin, I do think they misused the guy. Do I think he could have been a world champion like he could be in TNA right now? No. I don't think I couldn't have seen him, battling like John Cena or Randy Orton or whoever. I do think that he could have been a solid mid-card guy, and he very well could have been. If you remember back to 2012, he was doing something on YouTube as the USA guy or something like that. John Cena endorsed it. A few guys endorsed it on their Twitters, and it got some buzz around it, but then they dropped the gimmick. He was back to being Derek Bateman, went back to the refurnished NXT, what it is now, for maybe 1 or 2 more matches after getting a haircut. Then he was released unceremoniously. So I do think that they misused him, but I do think he's better off in TNA because he has a lot less restrictions on what he can do, and they'll actually use him to his full potential. Because in WWE, I just couldn't have seen him making it past a certain level, especially with all the star power over there. With so much star power currently gone from TNA, I mean, he kind of fills that void to perfection, in my opinion. So Justin's next question, do you think that Team 3D versus the Wolves versus the Hardys is the match of the year so far in 2014? Good question. I wouldn't go so far as to say that it was the match of the year in 2014 so far. I mean, there's so many great matches in WWE. Maybe for TNA, I would easily say hands down it's the best match of the year for TNA so far in 2014. I don't think anything's going to top that. And the ironic part about that was that it didn't happen on their biggest show of the year. It happened like 4 or 5 days later on Impact for free. The best match that you ever see in TNA in 2014, and nothing on Bound for Glory last night. Everything paled in comparison, and nothing could top that. But match of the year, like I don't watch ROH or Japan wrestling or Japanese wrestling, whatever, so I can't speak for those promotions. But in terms of WWE and TNA, it's definitely a match of the year contender, but I may not have called it better than the Shield versus the Wyatt family, or maybe even, I mean, this all has to do with the atmosphere too. You go back to the atmosphere at Elimination Chamber, that crowd was so fucking hot for that match between the Wyatt family and the Shield. It's insane. They were chanting "This is awesome" before they even came to blows. Before they even touched, people were chanting "This is awesome." It's such a great matchup. Shield versus Evolution, and Daniel Bryan versus Triple H, the Mania main event, Batista versus Orton versus Bryan. I would all maybe put a bit higher than that tag team match from TNA last week, but it definitely is up there in terms of matches of the year for wrestling in 2014. Like I said before, don't watch ROH or Japanese wrestling, so I can't really speak for them. I do watch ROH on occasion, but not enough to know what their match of the year was. Next question from Justin. WWE and TNA tend to use the words twisted and disturbed around the wrestlers of Willow and during the CM Punk heel run and countless other characters. Do you think that the term is thrown around way too much in professional wrestling? I do. It's like the word epic. And this doesn't go just for wrestling. It kind of goes for everyone in general. I mean, I've been guilty of using it in the past, but you use the word so much to the point where it doesn't really mean anything or really doesn't apply. Like, this is the greatest episode of Raw in history, or like, this is the single greatest, most epic moment in history. Like, Michael Cole says that all the time. They're hyperboles. They're the most overused words. They're buzzwords, I should say, to get people talking. You know what I mean? You're not going to say, like, this is the third greatest Raw in the last year. Like, they're not going to say that. So I understand why they use it. But it is kind of annoying for them to use it all the time, because it does lose meaning. It doesn't mean as much as it possibly could have if they kind of, sparsed it out a little bit. But yeah, as it goes for the words twisted and disturbed, I do think that it's overused. It does not have as much meaning as it once did. Like, you think of twisted and disturbed in, like, reality, you think of, like, people killing children or babies or something like that. I mean, I hate to get dark on you so all of a sudden, but you use that word to describe someone in today's society. You think they're, like, out of their fucking mind and stuff like that. Yeah, Dean Ambrose and Willow and CM Punk, they're all crazy, but are they really disturbed and twisted? Not really. A guy that uses a hot dog stand in Raw, I'm a big Ambrose fan, but come on, that's not disturbed and twisted and sick. You know what I mean? Like Randy Orton, they would use those words all the time, but yeah, as sick of a character as he wasn't like killing babies or anything like that. You know what I mean? So it has a different meaning when it comes to wrestling. His next question was, for certain pay-per-views such as Taboo Tuesday and Cyber Sunday, all of which I'll be reviewing here on the channel, by the way, cheap plug. You should check that out over the course of the next couple of weeks. Did you ever feel that the WWE rigged the voting so that match stipulation or person chosen would continue to roll with the storyline? Yes, I do believe that. I don't believe that in every situation that the voting was rigged. There is absolutely situations, not only in Cyber Sunday and Taboo Tuesday history, but going back to the Power of the People edition of Raw, and even just recently, like the app voting, the Slammy Award winning, and all that kind of bullshit. Yes, I do think that most of the time, a lot of that stuff is rigged. Not all of it is rigged. I know Jericho was talking about, and Jericho can be really hit or miss whether he's lying or not. But I remember on an episode of Raw, I think it was January of 2013, it was who was supposed to face CM Punk on that night's episode of Raw, whether it be Orton, Mysterio, or Jericho, and they thought Orton was going to win, so they put Jericho in a match with Wade Barrett that night on the script, but Jericho ended up winning the poll instead, so they had to switch it at the last minute and put Orton in there. So I do think on occasion they are legitimate, but more often than not, they probably are rigged, because they can't. I mean, more often than not, we talked about this on the show before a couple of months ago, but like usually when it comes to voting for match stipulations, they make it so similar, like a no disqualification, no holds barred. They're the fucking same thing for the most part. And they just do that because they want the people to choose. They've already scripted out the match, and they want them to pick that kind of match. So it's kind of dumb. But I do think that more often than not, it is rigged when they have like three drastically different opponents or match stipulations, and they really do want to go one direction. They will sway it every once in a while. So you got to take that for what it's worth and kind of take it with a grain of salt, in my opinion. His fifth and final question was, there was a video uploaded to YouTube about The Rock and Triple H talking about a WrestleMania match in comedy form. He's probably talking about SmackDown 15 from last week. Do you think that the video could lead to an actual WrestleMania match between them at WrestleMania 32, which is a Mania that Stone Cold is interested in taking part in? Do you see potential in seeing a triple threat match at WrestleMania 32? So as of right now, to talk about the Stone Cold thing real quick, I don't think it's definitely not at all confirmed that he's going to be wrestling at WrestleMania 32, 31, whatever. And to kind of tie this in with the Rock and Triple H thing, as you were asking about, if that match is going to happen, if it had to happen, it's going to be at WrestleMania next year. I don't think they are going to take the momentum of the segment that they had on SmackDown 15 and drag it out to WrestleMania 32. I think they were kind of teasing at a match at WrestleMania 31. Someone else asked me that question. I'll get to that in a little bit at the end of the video, I believe. It's one of the last questions I was asked. So if that match is going to happen, it's going to happen next year. So, no, I do not want to see a triple threat match between Stone Cold, Rock, and Triple H. They're just probably better off doing a singles match between Rock and Triple H. Triple threat matches are definitely hit or miss. More often than not, I really like the triple threat in the main event of Mania this year. But usually they can be a big clusterfuck, especially at WrestleMania. And Stone Cold, if he's going to come back for one more match, it has to be a singles match. It can't be a triple threat or something dumb like that. So, no, I don't see that match happening at 32. If Rock and Triple H is going to happen, it's going to be next year. I'll give my thoughts on that in a little bit. And Stone Cold, yes, I believe he is interested in taking part in a WrestleMania match. It doesn't mean he's coming back, but since it might be more often than not, more likely than not, it's going to be taking place in Texas, of his home state. So it is likely that he's going to be coming back, but hopefully Rock can have one more match at WrestleMania 31, and Stone Cold can have one more match at WrestleMania 32. If you put them on the same card, it's going to lose value. I mean, I know it's going to be like a star-studded, card. Regardless, people are going to be like, oh, Rock and Stone Cold on the same show wrestling. I mean, that's so awesome and whatnot. But one of the reasons that Stone Cold doesn't come back to a lot of the most recent WrestleManias is because The Rock's been on it, and because The Rock's going to be the main event, and then what's the point in bringing back Stone Cold? You know what I mean? So that makes a lot of sense. But we get into the other Facebook questions here. Thomas B. Here we go. Here's the next question. It wasn't at the end of the video after all. It was the next question. Would you personally care for a Rock versus Triple H match at WrestleMania 31? I get the feeling they faced each other before at a previous WrestleMania years ago. They never did face each other one-on-one on the grandest stage of them all. They only faced each other at WrestleMania 2000 in the Fatal 4-Way match with Mick Foley in the Big Show. Definitely not one of the better WrestleMania main events. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Multi-man main events for WrestleMania do not always work, and that is a prime example of that. Rock and Triple H should have just faced each other one-on-one. Big Show's involvement in that match was not necessary. Mankind, a.k.a. Mick Foley, was already retired by that point in time, so he should not have been in that match either. He did not look good. So that should have just been Rock versus Triple H in a standard singles matchup. Personally speaking here, it would not be the end of the world for me to see Rock versus Triple H. But, that being said, I do not really want to see that matchup at WrestleMania. Maybe you can blame it on me not being an Attitude Era kid and growing up in the age of 2008 and onward as a wrestling fan. Maybe you can blame it on that, but I really do not have that much desire to see Rock versus Triple H at WrestleMania, or ever again for that matter. My mindset is that if they're going to bring Rock in for one more match or one more run or whatever at WrestleMania, I would like to see it against someone that he's never faced before. I know the whole John Cena thing was overdone. It was a waste of time by the time they redid it again in 2013 after doing it to death in 2011 and 2012. I understand that, but it was still a fresh match, a fresh feud that a lot of people wanted to see going into Rock's return in 2011. His matches with CM Punk, also very fresh, something we had never seen before. A match between Punk and Rock. Now, I'll mention those matches a little later on in this video for another question, but that was something fresh. It was never done before. Even going back to the tag team match with Awesome Truth, he had never interacted with Truth and Miz before. That's a fresh match. And like I complained about Brock Lesnar, I don't think it was on this show. It might have been on Wrestle Rant Radio, where I was talking about since Brock Lesnar has been back in the WWE 2.5 years, the guy, for the most part, with the exception of CM Punk at SummerSlam last year, has faced guys from his time or faced guys that he's already faced before. He's already faced The Undertaker. He's already faced The Big Show a number of times. He's already faced John Cena a handful of times, dating back to his previous run of the WWE. He never faced Triple H before 2012, but they were also in that same time frame from that era. You know what I mean? So he's got to start facing people that he's never faced before. Like the Roman Reigns if that match happens, or whoever he faces at WrestleMania, will be the first guy, a first young guy, aside from CM Punk, a non-established main eventer, that he has crossed paths with since his return to WWE 2 or 3 years ago. And that's one of the biggest problems why I really don't want to see Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle. People have been asking me that. I mean, yeah, sure, they had a great match, 11 or 12 years ago, but there's the key word there, 11 or 12 years ago. I mean, that was so long ago. Kurt Angle's not in the same physical shape that he was in that many years ago. And Brock Lesnar would fucking kill the guy. We had the same concern going into the Undertaker match, and look what happened. Undertaker got a concussion. So I do not trust Kurt Angle in the ring with Brock Lesnar at this point in his career. But, I digress. Going back to the topic at hand here, I really do not have any at all desire to see Rock versus Triple H. Sure, it'd be a fun feud, and I would not be against it. I'd probably mark the hell out for it if it got announced. But there's other matches that I would rather see above that match of like a Rock versus Roman Reigns, which has history, family history behind it. A Rock versus, maybe not Rock versus Daniel Bryan, but I don't know, a Rock versus Brock match. I'd rather see Rock versus Triple H and Rock versus Brock, especially if that match would be for the title. Like, fucking, no thanks. I really do not want to see Rock versus Brock for the championship. That makes no sense, especially if both guys are going to be leaving after WrestleMania. But anyway, though, I'd rather see Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, in my personal opinion anyway. There's really no one else in the roster right now. It's either Rock and Reigns, Rock and Lesnar, or Rock and H. at a future WrestleMania, whether it be next year, WrestleMania 31 or 32, whatever. So like I said before, I would not be opposed to Rock versus Triple H, but I think even Triple H, there's other matches that he can do at WrestleMania that he's never done before, like him versus Sting or him versus, I mean, I know, again, that's like two old guys, but at least he's never faced Sting before. Triple H versus Roman Reigns, a feud that they've been building for the last year, and they never really delivered due to Roman Reigns' injury, the prolonging of the feud, all that kind of stuff. So, no, it's not my number one priority, but would I be opposed to it? Probably not. Next question comes from, his second question from Thomas. Do you think Bray Wyatt has recovered from being put down to the bottom by John Cena in their feud earlier this year? Will he ever get back to being at the top again? No, I do not think he's recovered. The whole point of that Jericho feud over the summer was to try to build Bray Wyatt back up, but it really wasn't successful. I mean, they tried their best with it. They had some good matches. They had some good to great matches on Raw, Battleground, SummerSlam, but then at the same time, shortly thereafter, he beat Jericho clean at SummerSlam. Then they just fucking destroyed Bray Wyatt on an episode of Raw and the whole Wyatt family. They have him get annihilated by John Cena, the Big Show, Mark Henry. That never made any sense to me. So I have no idea why they would do that, why they would opt to. I don't like to use the term bury, but they essentially did bury Bray Wyatt on that show, and he really has not recovered since. He wasn't a Night of Champions, and he hasn't been on Raw in the last couple of weeks. I know they're trying to split up the Wyatt family, which is another topic for another day. I talked about it on Wrestle Rant Radio before. The excerpts are here on the channel. But no, I don't think he's recovered yet, and I do think he is capable of recovering. I'm not saying all hope is lost for Bray Wyatt. I do think there is some hope for him. He has the talent, he has the mic skills, he has the in-ring skills. He is of main event caliber. They just have to put him right in the back on the right track in a feud with a main event guy that won't fucking bury him. Like Jericho was that guy, but they ruined any momentum Bray Wyatt had by destroying him 8 days after SummerSlam, that whole bullshit thing with John Cena, which he has not recovered from yet. And how can he recover? He's not even on the fucking show anymore. I know they're trying to break up the Wyatt family. The vignettes are awesome, but get the guy in the fucking show. I mean, I'll wait and see where this is leading to, but I still don't think it's time for the Wyatt family to break up. But to answer the second part of your question, I do think he can get back to the top again if they can do right by him by not burying him anymore or not putting him in any more feuds with guys like John Cena. Like, that was a big waste of time. They rushed into Bray Wyatt's feud with Cena way too quick. Could that have been a good feud? I mean, at the start it was. I love their video package going to WrestleMania, the whole legacy with Eminem. Like, the feud had its moments. Like, the whole the choir thing I thought was cool. Like, they had a lot of cool moments in the Bray Wyatt and John Cena feud, but the matches were shit. Bray Wyatt never really got a good win over John Cena, and I do not count Extreme Rules. That was one of the shittiest matches of 2014, easily. But no, I don't think he's recovered yet, but I do think he is capable of getting back to that main event caliber if they can start booking him correctly starting now. Next question comes from Jared J. Do you see Chris Jericho retiring anytime soon? No. I think if his most recent run was any indication, I do think that he still has a lot left in the tank. He's capable of having great matches. He had a lot of good matches this past run with Bray Wyatt, with Seth Rollins, with Randy Orton, with The Miz. A lot of good matches from Jericho this past year. With Luke Harper, with Eric Rowan even. Jericho had a lot of good matches over the last summer. But that being said, though, no, I do think when Jericho's the kind of guy that he's going to hang it up when he feels that he can't contribute anymore. He can't go anymore. He's not going to be a Ric Flair or a Hulk Hogan and keep on doing this for as long as he possibly can and completely beat up his body to the point of no return. He's going to stop when he feels he has nothing left to contribute. And as of right now, he still has a lot left to contribute. He's going to keep on coming back once or twice a year for the next couple of years, I believe anyway, even though he has so much going on outside of wrestling. I mean, the guy's an inspiration with the writing, the books, the music, the podcast, wrestling. He finds a way to balance it all, and I think that's very inspirational to me anyway. But no, I don't think he's going to be retiring anytime soon. He didn't show any signs of slowing down his most recent run in WWE. Andre G, his question was, what are your thoughts on Enzo Amore? The guy is incredibly entertaining. I think Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy are one of the bright spots of NXT every single week. And then you throw Carmella into the act as well. Those three are such a great act. They're so freaking entertaining. And I think they can really add something to the currently depleted tag team division on the WWE's main roster. Do I think they should be called up ASAP? Probably not. I think the Ascension is probably more ready than they are at this point. But if they can get Carmella into the act and kind of, build that a little bit and polish that up, and they could be main roster ready within the next year or so, in my opinion. But yeah, I really enjoy Enzo Amore. The guy is really, really funny. I think if you were to break up Enzo and Colin, I think Enzo would have the better future over Colin. I know Cassidy has the size and whatnot. He has that edge-like look, as someone described to me before. I think it was Jared. I do kind of see that, but the guy is not all that great in the ring. He's not that great in the mic without Enzo. So I think they are a package deal. And Enzo, at least, I mean, he might become the next Santino, but at least he's more entertaining than Santino, in my opinion anyway. And his matches really aren't all that great. I mean, he's a good worker. He's not terrible, but the entertainment in Enzo Amore is in the mic skills and the promos and all that kind of stuff. But I do think he'd be more successful on his own than Colin if they were to break up. But to answer your question, I'm really entertained by Enzo, and I do think he has a bright future in WWE if they call him up to the main roster as something more than a Santino-like character. The second question was, what are your top 5 matches that really disappointed you because you thought they would put on a good or epic match? And they put in parentheses, nothing from wrestlers or divas that suck. Good question. Jericho and Wyatt, I had high hopes for. A Battleground was not as good of a match as I thought it was going to be. It was decent. It wasn't great. It wasn't epic like I thought it would be. They had a very good match on Raw, the steel cage match. But that first match at Battleground did not meet my expectations. I mentioned it before, but Cena and Wyatt at WrestleMania was not a great match. I thought the two would be capable of much more than that. I thought they would steal the show. Did not. Undertaker and Brock Lesnar from that same show was not a great match. I know a lot of people remember the shock value of the streak ending. I understand that, but the match itself was not good. In fact, it was complete shit. And I mean, at 50 years old, you can't blame the Undertaker. You can't really blame Brock Lesnar either. But the decision to put those guys in the same ring together was not a good one. The build-up was not good. The match was not good. The chemistry was not there. And they are a prime example of two guys that had very good matches back in 02-03, especially that Hell in a Cell match, which I enjoy very, very much. Easily one of the best Hell in a Cell matches of all time. But then you put them in a ring together 11, 12 years later, it's just not the same. They are not the same people they were in 02, 03, 04. But those are a few of them. Those came to mind right now, but the few that I put down here on this list, Punk and Jericho, actually, at WrestleMania 28, I thought that would be one of the best WrestleMania main events ever. I mean, it wasn't a main event. It was a main event. It wasn't the main event. It was one of the headlining matches. But I really enjoyed their Extreme Rules match, their Payback match in 2013, that much more. I really didn't enjoy their WrestleMania match all that much, mostly because the whole stipulation that was put on it mere seconds before they went out there, that if Punk got disqualified, he would have to lose the title. That hindered the match, in my opinion. So therefore, that matchup was not as good as I thought it probably could have been. But like I said before, they made up for it at Extreme Rules the next month by having one of the best matches in Extreme Rules history. But that match, Orton and Bryan, their whole series of matches from 2013, Night of Champions, Battleground, Hell in a Cell, were definitely nowhere near as good as their no disqualification match on Raw earlier that year in I believe June in 2013. So those series of matches disappointed me. Orton and Triple H at WrestleMania 25. And this is only talking about matches from when I started watching. I'm not talking about matches before 2008 because I wasn't a fan at the time. It's not the same. But Orton and Triple H at WrestleMania 25, they had such a great build-up going into that show. And I know Orton and Triple H is not the freshest feud that they could have done. I know they did it in 04, 05, again in 07, and 08 again. So they've already beaten this feud to death by this point in time. But the build-up, the whole McMahon storyline, I thought was very, very good. I was entertained by that. It was intense. But the matchup was never going to recover from the Undertaker and Shawn Michaels match at WrestleMania 25 that happened earlier on in that night. So it definitely was not going to top that by any means. But the matchup was not good whatsoever. So that matchup definitely did not live up to expectations. Punk and Rock from Royal Rumble last year was definitely not as good as I thought it was going to be. I enjoyed, in fact, their Elimination Chamber match, actually, from a month later that much more. I thought that was a very good match. I thought that was an improvement over the Royal Rumble match. Maybe the fact that The Rock used the people's elbow kind of hindered it for me to end that match. I mean, I understand why he used it. The people on CM Punk's Against the People, whatever. I just thought it was an anticlimactic finish. I mean, I thought it was a good match, and the whole restart thing I did not think was necessary. Good match, not as great as I thought it was going to be, considering the build. And finally, John Cena versus The Miz at WrestleMania 27. That whole WrestleMania was a huge-ass disappointment. But the match itself, I thought, could have been better, considering the fact they have had better matches in the past, but it was a Raw main event caliber, not WrestleMania caliber by any means. But yeah, those are a lot of just only a few of the matches I thought were disappointing to me and were not as good or as epic as you said as I probably thought they could have been. Paul S. his question was: WWE is good at keeping surprise appearances as big secrets, whether it's Kevin Nash in the 2011 Royal Rumble or SummerSlam 2011. Just to correct you right there for a second, SummerSlam was a surprise, but the Royal Rumble one was not. Maybe to a lot of people it was, but a rumor a report did break the internet. Not break the internet. What the fuck am I saying? There was a breaking news story the night before. I remember reading it about Kevin Nash and Booker T appearing in the Rumble. So a lot of the insider fans, the internet fans, and whatever knew that he was going to be there along with Booker T. It sure as hell didn't take away from the moment. That was a fucking amazing moment. Don't get me wrong. But that was not really it was not a well-kept secret because the news broke like 24 hours before the show. So just to correct you there. But to continue on, or with The Rock with the last week's Raw in terms of being a big surprise appearance. My question is, if you were to book Sting for his much anticipated WWE debut, how would you book it and when? Will you book his appearance on a regular show or have him appear at a pay-per-view? Good question. A lot of people have been wondering, how would you debut Sting? I don't think you do it on Raw at any point within the next couple of months. I think, first of all, whether it's going to be on a Raw or pay-per-view, if you think about all the biggest returns in the last couple of years, almost all of them have happened on Raw. Chris Jericho at the Raw this year, the night after Money in the Bank, my biggest markout moment ever because I was live in attendance for that return of Chris Jericho of Y2J at that show. It's up here on the YouTube channel if you want to check it out. So that one broke on the dirt sheets. I didn't read it. I was in the arena. I didn't have an internet connection. But that was a huge surprise. Happened on Raw. Brock Lesnar, same thing. People knew about it beforehand. Happened on Raw. The Rock happened on the Raw before Elimination Chamber in 2011. All these amazing surprise appearances all happened on Raw. They could do it on the pay-per-view, but what pay-per-view could it possibly happen on? If the guy's going to have one match before he retires, it's going to happen at WrestleMania, so he's not going to make an appearance in the Royal Rumble. So don't have him appear in the Royal Rumble match. To have him appear, it's got to happen at the end of a show. It can't be like a mid thing. Like The Rock, I understand why they did it, but The Rock is never, he's not of Sting. The Rock is a big star, but Sting is different because he's never been in WWE before. His first appearance has got to be a big one. So I don't want to see him advertise it out. I guess they could, but it'd be so much cooler if he just made an appearance. It doesn't have to come through the rafters. I know a lot of people are expecting that. That doesn't even need to happen. I don't think it would happen anyway. But the least they could do is have him show up via a surprise, even if it breaks the dirt sheets beforehand. Even if there's a breaking news story about it before he goes live on Raw, that's fine. At least it happens on Raw. For the most part, it's a surprise. So of a pay-per-view or a regular show, I would do it on a regular show as of Raw. When would I do it? Like I said before, not at any point with the next couple of months. If there was any perfect time to do it, it was either at WrestleMania last year, if Undertaker won. He didn't, but if he won, there was a perfect time to do it right there, pointing at the WrestleMania sign, or at the end of that show, with Undertaker coming out and saying he's going to retire, and Sting coming out saying that, no, you won't retire, I'll face you at WrestleMania next year. So that was another thing they possibly could have done, which they didn't do. I understand why they didn't. Undertaker was still injured, he was concussed, so I understand that. But with that being said, though, if you're going to have him appear on Raw, you can do it. There's always a big surprise, usually on the Raw after Royal Rumble. So you can do it then on the Raw after Elimination Chamber, any point on the road to WrestleMania. I wouldn't do it at any point before that because there's so much time between between now and WrestleMania that it's going to lose momentum. It's going to lose its specialness very quickly if he makes an appearance quickly on Raw now and then doesn't show up until fucking WrestleMania. So I would do it on the Raw after Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber. How would I book it? Your question is, just have him show up. I would definitely make it a big surprise appearance. Don't hype it out. That's probably one of the reasons why Batista's return was not as great as it possibly could have been. I enjoyed it. The fact they hyped it up and returned, in advance, that was good and all, but it lost its impact. I think people would have reacted much bigger to Batista coming back if he returned in the Royal Rumble that match that Sunday. Maybe people would have been opposed to Daniel Bryan not winning. If Batista returned in that match and won it, people probably wouldn't have been as pissed, in my opinion. But I do think that they should have him appear via surprise and don't advertise it out. I think that's would be the death of Sting. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but it'd be better if he made a surprise appearance. And like I said before, he just comes out, maybe points about it at the WrestleMania sign, or talks about being a pleasure in WWE, and then if his match is going to be with The Undertaker, then maybe have The Undertaker show up, or if it's going to be Triple H or Orton or whoever else, have them attack him, or tease a match at WrestleMania, do whatever. But when WrestleMania season, how would I book it? Via a surprise, or just to come out, point the bat at the WrestleMania sign, or just cut a brief promo saying who he's going to face at WrestleMania. I don't know, something along those lines. Nathan D, his question was, watch the entire entrance for Grado, more specifically the Grado Berg one. This isn't really a question; it's more of a what my thoughts are on. Watch the entrance for Grado, more specifically the Grado Berg one, and give me your thoughts on him and whether he's going high places. So I looked this up a little before filming this video. The guy is so incredibly entertaining. I haven't seen him work yet. I just looked up what you were talking about, ICW Great Oberg entrance. So you can check it out on YouTube right here on the website, of course, if you want to check it out for yourself. But it was so incredibly entertaining. For anyone that's not seen, and if you haven't already, like I said before, definitely go out of your way to check it out. The guy, he comes out, he does a Goldberg-like entrance, only to come out dancing, this whole shtick, this song or whatever else. And it's just so freaking entertaining because I've never seen anything like it before. I thought he was going to have this serious vibe to him. And he comes out dancing. The crowd's so much into it. One of the best wrestling crowds I've seen in a long time. It's so entertaining, but definitely check it out. Like I said before, I haven't seen him work yet. I didn't have time to check out like one of his matches, so I can't say if he's getting like the next Rock or something. But as an entrance, I think the guy is very entertaining. I mean, Fandango had a very cool entrance when he first came on the scene in 2013, and he's also a very good wrestler. They just never used him right. And this is the ICW. This isn't WWE. This is something completely different. This is indie league overseas, so I understand that. But the guy could be a shit worker, but at least it's entertaining. At least his entrance is extremely entertaining, in my opinion. So check that out if you haven't already, if you have no idea what I'm talking about. Ross S., his question was, after seeing TNA's Bound for Glory arena this year, are you surprised that the expected attendance is low, especially in a wrestling country like Japan? Also, what do you think what they will do? What do you think this will do to the company if they can pull a big, if they can't, okay, let me restart here. Sorry for all the botching. Also, what do you think this will do to the company if they can't pull a big crowd from a big wrestling country for their biggest pay-per-view? So there's a lot wrong with TNA Bound for Glory this year. I don't want to go on a 30-minute rant about this. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a TNA hater. I love TNA. I went to one of their shows in August, and even now, when the product is very lukewarm at the moment, I still want to go to one of their shows if they come back to the New York City area in January for one of their live shows on January 7th. I want to go to one of those shows just because I love wrestling. I love TNA, but this is coming from a big TNA fan. They really dropped the ball on Bound for Glory this year. Like, I was so excited when they announced that they were going to be in Japan this past year. That was very, very cool. Only for them to find out that they weren't going to be building a card whatsoever, no big matches or anything like that. They really dropped the ball. They, pretty much just stopped the hype of them being in Japan. That was the only thing they really hyped going into the show, aside from, all the matches. The card they made official like 2 weeks before the show started. That was complete bullshit. But, yeah, it was pre-taped, and I understand that aspect of it since it's overseas in Japan, but there was no TNA title match. A lot of their biggest stars were out on the show. Bobby Roode, Bobby Lashley, Austin Aries, Gail Kim, The Wolves, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy. All these big stars in the company weren't even on it. It was more of a Wrestle One show than it was a TNA show. And I've heard conflicting reports. I heard from you, Ross, and a few other people on Twitter saying that the attendance was low. But then I read another report that the place was sold out. And the attendance was great. Like, it fit like 2,000 people. So I don't know if you're talking about Bound for Glory or the recent tapings in Bethlehem, which I know the attendance was shit for that, and you can watch it every week on Impact. The attendance is not good. The crowds were not good at all. It was very dead in all the arenas that they went to for the last couple of weeks. I know New York City, but the one that I went to was a little more lively than the ones in Bethlehem, so I don't know what the deal was there, but this was more of a Wrestle One pay-per-view than it was TNA. They did all the hype for it, so if the attendance was what I thought it was and it being sold out, you got to thank Wrestle One for that. And if the attendance was low, then it's fucking TNA Bound for Glory. Why is someone going to want to go to a pay-per-view that they haven't bothered to hype whatsoever? So, I mean, the pay-per-view itself was a joke. It had a lot of quality wrestling, don't get me wrong. It was an enjoyable event to watch live, but I would not at all recommend that you go back and pay for it. It was definitely not worth the purchase whatsoever. So I thought it was a quality wrestling show, but in terms of being TNA's biggest pay-per-view of the year, it was a complete joke, and it was a complete disappointment, in my opinion. But what do I think this means if they can't pull a big crowd? I mean, TNA has been able to pull a big crowd in months. In years, this place has been able to pull a big crowd. They can't sell out any arena that they have been in for the last year or so, and it's sad. I mean, I feel for TNA. I'm not saying I wish for them to go out of business. That's just one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Why would you ever want a wrestling business to go out of business? More work the better, more competition the better. I know TNA is no competition, but it's an alternative. A lot of people don't understand that. But even still, though, I don't think it bodes well for TNA if they can't pull a big crowd. Like I said before, it looked like they had a pretty lively crowd in Japan. I know they weren't, the most electric bunch at times, but it's Japan. They're supposed to be respectful. It's a lot different atmosphere than it is in America. But Wrestle One, I mean, they tried their best to promote this event over in Japan, but for the most part, it's a TNA pay-per-view. It's their biggest show of the year, and they failed to build it up properly. It all comes back to that in the long scheme of things, in my opinion. But I do think the future of the company is grim, but hopefully they can find a TV deal so they can come back to New York City on January 7th for a live show, which I will hopefully be able to attend. Next question comes from King Sudog. His question was, if Brock Lesnar is out until January, shouldn't that evaluate the status of the Intercontinental and United States Championships? Give them a chance to shine. In theory, yes. In theory, they should be elevated, but no. WWE does not treat their mid-card titles with any respect, and they haven't for years. This is not a new, recent development, not any shocking news, hopefully, to anybody, but they've treated those titles like complete shit. Dolph Ziggler has been a bit better as of late, but it's going to take a lot to restore those lost prestige in both those belts if they want them to mean anything. Like I said, I think I wrote this in maybe a post or an article or something like that, but let's just think about this for a second. Brock Lesnar, the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, he's going to be out for a while. I don't know if it's going to be out until January. I know that's what a report indicated. More than that in a little bit, but bottom line is this. If Brock Lesnar is going to be out for the foreseeable future, in theory, Dolph Ziggler, I mean, Sheamus, but what the fuck does the U.S. title mean, really? I mean, I like the U.S. title, but what the fuck did that title mean in 2014? In theory, Dolph Ziggler is the next top guy in the company. Yes, that'd be fucking awesome because he's the Intercontinental Champion, so in theory, he's the next biggest face in the company. But there are so many people on the ladder that are higher up than him, and I mean, I hate to say this, but John Cena, Dean Ambrose, The Big Show even, Mark Henry, all of these people are more important than Dolph Ziggler. The guy's kicking off Raw every single week. Yeah, sure, he's having hell of awesome matches every single week in the opening contest, but the guy hasn't main evented Raw in years. So why? The guy is not the top guy. Yes, in theory, on paper, yes, he's the next biggest guy in the company, but if they're not going to treat him as such, then what the fuck's the point? The same thing with Sheamus. The guy's a former World Heavyweight Champion. You'd think he'd help bring some back importance or some, prestige to that U.S. Championship, but he's defended the title like 2 or 3 times in the last 5-6 months since he won it. So again, what really does that mean in 2014 if you're a mid-card champion, there's no world champion? It means nothing. It's just another belt. It really just means nothing. I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, I hate to sound bitter or anything, but those titles fucking mean nothing. It's a shame, but yes, I do think, like you said, it should elevate the status of the Intercontinental and U.S. titles, but it doesn't. Because WWE doesn't see it as such. They don't treat it as important as they should. So that really comes down to WWE's fault in the long scheme of things. At Cody Collier 12, his question was, what is your favorite aspect of the WWE video games, whether it be as playing as your favorite superstars or booking matches? I don't really play many. I mean, I buy all the video games, I get them for Christmas and whatever, but I don't play them all that much. Anyone who knows me well, I mean, I have content of it here on the channel, but SmackDown vs. Raw 2007 was easily my favorite wrestling SmackDown vs. Raw game of all time. No Mercy will definitely have to take that spot of my favorite wrestling game of all time, up there with NWO versus WCW No Mercy for the N64. Both those games are phenomenal, and you haven't experienced wrestling video games until you play those games. But my favorite aspect of them, like I said before, I play like all the SmackDown versus Raw games, the WWE 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever. I play them for the story mode, but I never really go back and play them for the exhibition mode unless I'm playing with like a friend or my brother or whatever. But for the most part, like you said, what's my favorite aspect, whether it be playing as superstars or booking matches? Booking matches. I mean, Universe mode is fun and all, but it's not as great as General Manager mode in my opinion. General Manager mode was the shit, and it's a real testament to 7 or 8 years after that game is released, I'm still playing it to this day. I mean, all these other games have come out since then. 08, 09, 2010, 2011, WWE 12, WWE 13, WWE 14, WWE 2K15. And still I'm playing SVR07 GM mode. It's a testament to how great of a game, how great of a mode that was. So, that's just me though. I love booking matches. I love being head of creative and whatever. So, yeah, booking matches is my favorite aspect of the game. I mean, I tried playing Universe mode. It's fun, but it's not the same as GM mode in my opinion. At SwagZio, his question was, what are your thoughts on Ty Dillinger's new gimmick he's been doing at live events? I heard it got pulled, but I guess he was like a blackjack dealer, and he was dishing out cards and stuff to his opponents before the matches. Usually, there's a reason why they pull that kind of stuff. I heard it was only happening for a few weeks before they pulled it and changed his gimmick and just completely took it away from him. I mean, more often than not, sometimes they just kind of pull awesome stuff like that because they're just petty like that. But, I mean, it's NXT, so usually they're just kind of fine-tuning their characters. So it probably wasn't working. It probably got old fast. According to someone that went to these shows, it got old pretty fast. So that's probably why it didn't work. But, I mean, I never saw it, so I can't really say anything really about it. I mean, it sounds cool. And the best part about, as you know, as wrestlers have gone on record before in saying that the best wrestlers are just only extensions of their personal selves. And I guess what Gavin Spears, Ty Dillinger, whatever you want to call him, he used to be a blackjack dealer back in the day before he became a wrestler. So I guess that is a personality trait of his that tied over into the wrestling world, which is really cool. But like I said before, it probably wasn't working if they had to pull it or something like that. So I guess it wasn't working. I mean, on paper it sounded pretty cool, but if I saw it, probably did get old pretty fast. But the guy's got talent. I think he's much more. I think he's capable of much more than a tag team wrestler with Jason Jordan, who I really don't see much in. He's an athletic guy, but I really don't see much more in Jason Jordan, especially as like with the new haircut, he looks like a second coming of Sean Benjamin. I don't mean to sound racist, but with the athletic ability and the look, the build, whatever, he looks like a second coming of Sean Benjamin. Ty Dillinger, I think, is capable of much more. The guy's really entertaining. Make him a heel. The guy could be a great character, in my opinion. Next question comes from @Brad Verdar. His question was: Do you think Tyson Kidd's career renaissance done in NXT and increase of TV time could lead to a title run? I would like to think so. I don't think so. I don't think so, but I would like to think so. In terms of the NXT title, I don't see it. I don't see him as NXT champion, nor does he need to be. I think, you should keep the NXT title only to guys like Adrian Neville, Sami Zayn, Bo Dallas, the top stars in that territory, in that brain. I mean, it's kind of is like a territory in essence. But Tyson Kidd, I mean, he's established enough to the point where he doesn't need the NXT title. On the main roster, if that's what you're talking about, maybe. I think the guy is definitely capable of being a mid-card champion. Like I just said on the whole rant 3 minutes ago, the mid-card titles don't mean shit, so I really don't know how much it means for him to win the IC or US title. But it would be cool, though. I think the guy deserves it. He's such a great heel. The whole thing with Natalya on Total Divas and NXT, Raw, SmackDown, main event, all that kind of stuff. I'm very, very happy to see him getting more TV time. I'm a big believer in Tyson Kidd. He's a great wrestler, and I'm so happy to see him finally getting a chance on TV after being off TV for the last fucking year. But, yeah, that being said, I do think it should lead to a title run. Do I think it will? Probably not. They'll probably keep him in this story with Natalya, kind of like a mid-card gimmick for a while, but I do think that if they gave him the ball and ran with it, and he did run with it, and he would run with it, I do think he has potential to be a solid Intercontinental or United States champions if they build him up enough to that point. And like I said before, they don't have to build him up too much because the titles mean nothing, really. So they can give him that title. Would it help Tyson Kidd? Probably not, but it would be cool to see him as a singles champion for once, because his entire 6-7 year run in WWE, he's never held a mid-card title or a singles championship in WWE. So it'd be very, very cool to see him as United States or Intercontinental champion. His next question was, who do you think should be the 2 team captains in the 5-on-5 elimination tag team match this year at Survivor Series? So much can change. I mean, I know we're only a month away from Survivor Series, but I would have never believed if you told me a month out that the Usos and the Road Brothers and Rey Mysterio would be the lead captain of his team last year at Survivor Series. And that was an awesome Survivor Series tag team match, but for the most part, they confirm these matches a week before the show. They don't at all mean what they used to. It's a match because they feel obligated. They are obligated to do one of these matches every single year. So they just throw it in the card at the last minute. So they really don't put much thought into it. I mean, there was a time back in the 80s and 90s where every single match in the card was an elimination tag team match, where there's no roster depth. They don't care about it. And I mean, it got to the point where they do 1 or 2 or even sometimes 3 5-on-5 elimination tag team matches, sometimes with the Divas, sometimes one for Raw, SmackDown, the mid-card guys, the main event guys. But since 2011, those matches have really not meant anything. It sucks because I really enjoy them and I like the gimmick behind it. But as of right now, who would I put as the team captains for both the matches? That's a good question. I mean, really, as of right now, there's no real feuds that are going on right now. Like last year, there was the Shield and the Rhodes brother family. So you could kind of imagine a month out that they might be doing that at Survivor Series. But right now, the only real feud that we have in WWE is John Cena versus Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. I mean, maybe Dolph Ziggler and The Miz, but that feud's kind of already died down. Maybe Miz or Sheamus. I mean, but really, how exciting is that? I mean, I'm a big Miz fan, but really, the Team Miz versus Team Sheamus, give me a break. I don't know how they're going to pull it together a 5-on-5 match since there's like no fucking feuds going on right now, but it's going to be interesting, to say the least. Next question comes from @WWE_The Shield. His question was, your thoughts on WWE not having the WWE title defended until the Royal Rumble? So I read that report last week, along with everyone else, about how The current plan, apparently, is to not have Brock Lesnar defend that championship until the Royal Rumble, where he would defend against John Cena, and John Cena wouldn't win because of Rusev. There was so much fucking wrong in that one sentence alone. It pissed me off beyond belief. I won't talk about Cena versus Rusev here. I mean, I've ranted about it before on Wrestle Rant Radio. There's a clip here on the channel if you want to check it out. I don't even want to see Cena in the title picture. They had the chance to do it at Hell in a Cell, and they blew that opportunity. So I don't know why they would ever do that match at Royal Rumble. That really just makes no sense to me at all. But Brock Lesnar not being in the WWE until Royal Rumble, it just makes no sense. I don't even complain about him not being on Raw, but to not have him defend that title until the Royal Rumble, I mean, it was fine before when he wasn't the champion, but as champion, he should at least, at the very fucking least, if he's not going to appear at Hell in a Cell or TLC, the least that he could do is show up at Survivor Series, one of the big 4 pay-per-views, and defend that title against Batista, against Randy Orton, which I proposed time and time again, against John Cena, I don't give a fuck, or, I mean, Royal Rumble's a little longer. If he did it against John Cena in Survivor Series, maybe, but they should have done it in Hell in a Cell. Dean Ambrose, whoever. At least have him defend the title on one of the biggest shows of the year at Survivor Series. I mean, I know you can argue that Survivor Series hasn't meant anything in like 5 or 6 years, but it's still one of their big 4 pay-per-views, and we have 3 fucking more months until the Royal Rumble, so at least have the guy show up on one pay-per-view before then. Pay the guy what he wants, and maybe you can't do that because of the recent budget cuts and all that kind of stuff. I know they're on a budget right now, but, you know, dish out some cash out of the pocket, give it to the Beast Incarnate, have him show up at Survivor Series at the very fucking least. Don't have him off TV until the Royal Rumble. It makes no sense. I can't live with John Cena, Seth Rollins feud for the next 3 or 4 months. I don't know if I can live with John Cena main eventing every single fucking Raw against Randy Orton and Kane in 2014 for the next 3 months. Please have Brock Lesnar show up and defend the title at least once before Royal Rumble. I'd be completely content with that. At least one title defense. If they don't do that, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with this company. But the next question comes from @Eli, the big guy. His question was, do you see Matt and Jeff Hardy returning to WWE anytime soon? No, not anytime soon. I do see them coming back at some point. I think Jeff Hardy has a bigger chance. I mean, this is coming from the biggest Matt Hardy fan in the world. I mean, see my profile picture for evidence of that. But I don't see Matt Hardy coming back to WWE on his own. Like, the same thing with John Morrison. I mean, at this point in his career, I think someone asked me about this before. I think someone asked me about this last week in the video. If you want to go back and check it out, I can't remember exactly. I have terrible memory when it comes to the short-term stuff. But I can't see Matt Hardy coming back on his own, like as a singles competitor. Maybe for like a one-off appearance in like the Royal Rumble. But there's more money in the Jeff Hardy singles run, like one more singles run for Jeff Hardy in WWE. But it'd be awesome if they came back together. I mean, God knows the tag team division needs more teams. But I mean, this is only speaking of right now. So, like I said before, I don't see them coming back anytime soon because they're currently tied up with TNA. And I know Jeff Hardy signed the new TNA contract, I believe in February of 2013. So he's going to be there until, I mean, you know, for how long TNA is going to be around for, I have no idea. But let's say TNA is around for the next couple more years. I think Jeff Hardy signed a contract with them until at the very least February or March of 2015, if not the spring of 2016. I think he signed a 3-year contract. I'm not sure of that, but it's either 2015 or 2016 that he signed a contract until. So it's going to be a while until we see Jeff Hardy or Matt Hardy in WWE again. I know Jeff Hardy said, yeah, I think I'll be back in WWE at some point, even if it's 15 years down the line. I don't know about 15 years, Jeff. I think he'll be back there a lot sooner than 15 years. But no, not anytime soon, but I do see them coming back eventually. Final question comes from @Sal D'Angelo Jr. His question was, do you think it would be a good idea to put Paul Heyman on creative when Lesnar leaves, or find some other kind of role for him? I don't know if you mean when Lesnar leaves, like temporarily, like right now, or when Lesnar leaves the company. Because like we've said before here on the show, Brock Lesnar's current contract expires around WrestleMania 31 time. If he's re-signing, no one really knows. So I don't know if you're talking about once Brock Lesnar is done for good with WWE, once his current contract expires and he's gone, or if, you know, just in the meantime. Either way, I would love if Paul Heyman was on creative, but I don't think Paul Heyman wants to be on creative. I mean, he spoke candidly about this in the past. I think on Stone Cold's podcast too. I mean, even on his DVD, I think he might have talked about it. I haven't seen it yet, but from what I've heard, the guy was so burnt out on creative. I mean, they really got everything out of him they possibly could when he was on creative. They beat all the living shit out of him when he was on creative from what, 04 to 06 or something like that. Before he quit, he just had enough. He had to leave. So I don't blame Paul Heyman, but the creative side of SmackDown was at its best when Paul Heyman was in charge. So absolutely, I think Paul Heyman on creative would be a great thing. I mean, I think there was an episode of Raw last year, I want to say the June 17th episode, that I heard was written by both him and Zeb Coulter alone. Not 30 monkeys in a creative room team. Nothing like that. I heard it was just Zeb Coulter and Paul Heyman, and that episode being one of the best of the year last year. So they got great minds for the wrestling business, and that's what we need more of on the creative team, in my opinion anyway. But I don't think he wants to be back in creative. Would I put him back in creative? Yeah, sure, but I don't think he wants to do that. Would I find some other role for him? Yeah. I mean, even temporarily. I know even if you're talking about once his current contract expires, but even as of right now, I think there's a lot that you can get out of Paul Heyman with Brock Lesnar not being around for the foreseeable future. I don't know if it's smart to do another Paul Heyman guy thing, because the last time he did that with not Cesaro, well, Cesaro, but I mean, even with Ryback and Curtis Axel, when Lesnar left in mid-2013, they paired him with Axel. That didn't pan out too well when Lesnar was gone last fall. They paired him up with Ryback. That didn't work out too well when Lesnar was gone after WrestleMania this year, and they paired him up with Cesaro. That didn't work out too well, and I don't blame Paul Heyman. I more so blame creative for not booking him correctly. But that being said, though, I don't think the role of a manager would be awesome. But if the last couple of years have been any indication, it just would not pan out well for Paul Heyman or his client, whoever he would be paired with. So I'd maybe put him as a GM. I know the role of GM does not mean anything in 2014. I'm glad the role of GM has pretty much been toned down because the authorities in charge, they overrule anything anyway. So once the authority is gone, when that will be, I have no idea. It's been going on for the last year and a half now, which is mind-boggling to think about. But with that being said, though, him as a general manager, like he was in 2004, I want to say, or 2003. I think it was 03 to 04. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, him as a GM for Raw or SmackDown would be awesome. More so for Raw, because SmackDown doesn't mean anything anymore. But yeah, probably as a general manager, because as a manager, I mean, he has use, obviously, but just the last couple of years have not worked out well for him as a manager for Curtis Axel, Ryback, and Cesaro, so it's probably better to use him in some other capacity. So that's going to do it for this week's edition of #AskGSM. Really appreciate you guys sending in the questions, and you can do so by leaving a comment on this video, finding on Facebook at Graham Jason Matthews. You can leave a comment on the post that I usually put up on Sunday nights, or you can usually just leave a post on the timeline too. That's what Justin did. You can do that as well, and I'll accept those. You can tweet me on Twitter at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM, and all your questions will be featured in next week's video. Just use the #AskGSM, and I'll be sure to answer it in next week's video. So with that being said, folks, really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your Columbus Day to watch this, or at any point during the next over the course of the next week. And that said, hope you guys enjoy your Columbus Day, enjoy Raw tonight. If you watch this before the episode of Raw airs tonight, and I'm Graham Jason Matthews, and I'll catch you guys next week.